Mine is very short on stem cell, on the things of what the Roman Catholic Church thinks about it, or thought about it before, because I think now they're in the way of saying, well, if it's going to help heal people, maybe we should get into it. But it was August 9, 2001, when the U.S. bishops' reaction to the President Bush's decision to allow limited federal funding for embryo stem cell research was swift. Bishop Joseph A. Fiorenza, President of the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops, issued a statement August the 10th, calling the decision unacceptable. And let me put a little bit of what I talked to you about after I had written this on the next Monday at our little committee in Pflugerville. I kind of brought it up to the people, and they were going like, well, no, we think that it's wrong, and da. And so, the lady that was saying that has young children, I said, just imagine that your child needs something like this. Are you going to deny it just because you think it's wrong? Well, no, because when it hits home, you want anything to be done for your loved ones. So we can see the big picture a little bit better. So the federal government, for the first time in history, will support research that relies on the destruction of some defenseless human beings with possible benefit for others or to others. However, such decision is hedged about with qualifications. It allows our nation's research enterprise to cultivate a disrespect for human life. And of course, that's the thoughts of any Christian, but the only thing is, like I said, I mean, when you have a need, sometimes you just fold your hands and say, let it be done. We hope and pray that President Bush will return to a principle, stand against treating some human lives, as nothing more than objects to be manipulated and destroyed for research purposes. As we face a new century of powerful and sometimes even frightening advances in biotechnology, we must help ensure that our technical advances will serve rather than demean our very humanity. In the days leading up to Bush's decision, individual bishops have spoken out to. Chicago Archbishop Francis E. George wrote that our nation is at a crossroads. History has shown that it always dispossessed those whose lives are easily overlooked, who are subjected to the worst abuses of scientific research. He said so-called spare human embryos are particularly vulnerable to this kind of moral blindness, because so many people seem to have difficulty identifying with their humanity. Pittsburgh's Bishop Donald Quirrell had written in his Diocesan Sun newspaper that while a stem cell is a tiny speck, if nothing less, contains the element out of which comes a fully developed human person. And I went over it also at my mom's house in our group, and of course my brother also is very much against something like this, but I told him, I said, we don't know until we are going through something that is gonna be part, either we live or we die within our families. And I've always brought that little part because being so much against everything myself in the past, but now that I've been here with y'all in group, I mean, and I have seen some changes in my mind and in my heart, but yeah, I think this, if it's needed and we can use it for the well-being of others, it should be done. So this is one of the most important things to understand, that if it's good to help others, Alzheimer's or whatever, or diabetics or whatever it's needed for, I really do believe that we should go with it. We should not oppose it. So, thank you.
Most of it is not really against defenseless human beings. I would think, you know, it's an embryo that is not going to make it, or a non-human embryo.
So a large part of the debate hinges on two areas. One, what are we going to use the knowledge for that we gain from stem cell research? There's a moral question around that. What are we using the knowledge for? Are we trying to clone human beings? Okay, we'll talk about that. Also the methods, because there's different types of stem cell research. All of our bodies have stem cells, so we could use the stem cells of any of our bodies. The challenge is that the stem cells in fetuses are more potent, and so it seems that the question then would become, okay, if the stem cells of fetuses are better for us to be using than the stem cells of adults, then how do we get the stem cells of fetuses? And that raises a whole nother set of questions. So to tackle those two questions, then essentially we as a church and as a people have to look, okay, let's take a look first at the knowledge. How are we going to use the knowledge that we gain from stem cell research? I'm imagining that if we were to know the value of stem cell research, stem cell research is oriented toward the possible cure of certain diseases. So as I say these diseases, think of the people you've known in the past or know currently who suffer from some of these diseases. Stem cell research could help to cure Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, stroke, and diabetes type 1, birth defects, spinal cord injuries, replace or repair damaged organs, reduced risk of transplantation, and they may play a major role in cancer. So it seems that there's a good side of stem cell research. In ethics, one of the challenges is weighing the good and the bad, the pros and the cons. Well, on the one hand, the knowledge that we could gain from stem cell research may justify stem cell research in the minds of many. What are the cons to the knowledge that we gain from it? I mean, here are all these scientists in their labs playing with stem cells. The moral question that some people raise is, why are they doing that? Are they trying to play God? Have you heard that before? Right? Who are you to play God? I was just speaking with someone earlier this afternoon who attended recently a funeral in Mexico, and the priest in Mexico told the congregation that they needed to pray for this woman because she took her own life, and there's no chance that she will ever be in heaven. She needs our prayers more than anyone we can imagine. And because who are we to take our own lives, because that, in effect, we are playing God. Whoa! That was just a strong message that you probably won't hear Father Jamie preaching anytime soon, right? But the same argument that was used by that priest in Mexico is used by many persons within the church today with respect to stem cell research. Here you are, who are you playing God, thinking that you can solve things like Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's or any number of other illnesses that could be cured?
But then couldn't you go the other way too and say that God has given you the knowledge?
There you go. So the counter argument to that is, hello, God gave you this tremendous mind. Imagine for a moment if God actually wanted you to use that mind for good. What if God wanted you to be a co-creator with God? It's not just God creating this world, but it's us creating this world together. We are co-creators, right?
I believe it's evidence of how great God is.
Amen. So part of it is the argument that has to do with how we're going to use that knowledge, because if we're going to use that knowledge to cure disease, it's not about me playing God and master of the universe, trying to clone human beings. It's about me trying to better the human situation. If I can do anything to relieve the suffering of people who currently suffer from these diseases, then it seems like that could be a good thing. So that's the argument about knowledge, but then the other argument comes down to methods. So if we know then that the stem cells of fetuses are more potent than the stem cells of adults, then got news for you. Deacon John, we love him, but we don't want his stem cells, right? His stem cells are a little old. No offense, right? The stem cells of the fetus then, okay, there's a difference now because Deacon John can choose whether or not he's going to give us some of his stem cells. Do you mind if we take some of your stem cells? He can choose. The argument is made that the fetus cannot choose, which raises all sorts of ethical questions, which really brings us into the debate on abortion and the relationship that various people have towards the human fetus. One argument is that that human fetus is not yet viable And so many women, let's just be honest, many women, after they've discovered that they are pregnant, we know that it takes two to tango, right? It takes two to tango, but there is just some injustice in this world in that when the two people tango, one of the parties, the male, can get off scot-free.
Yeah.
It's the woman in that relationship who has to decide, what is that thing within me and what relationship do I have to that thing? The church has traditionally taken the stand that that thing is a human being or is a potential human being. So ideally, the relationship that we would have with that being eventually is an I-thou relationship, to use the language of philosopher Martin Buber, to think that that fetus is a human person. The Roman Church in the United States tends to be more conservative on these things and always says that it is a human person. Interestingly, if you were to take that human person outside of the womb, it's not viable. It's not viable. So maybe better said, it's potentially a human being. The other question is the question of relationship. If it's not yet viable, and if that woman doesn't see it, doesn't enter into a relationship with it, then how does one tell a woman that you have to hold on to that thing to which you don't have the same relationship that other mothers may have a relationship?
I was gonna ask Cleopas about organs, donating organs. Did you touch that topic? I mean, I know stem cell is one, but how about when we donate?
Yeah, not today, I mean, but those days I did tell the people, I said, look at how many people donate organs, and if you were to say, I don't want my child to donate any of his organs, or I don't want to donate, but if it was one of your children that would need one, would you be saying, no, I don't want it? And she goes, no, because you're always looking for,
But I was assuming that
Yeah.
the fetus has to.
be formed, I guess, yeah. I mean,
Dead. I mean, was he before the baby dies, or?
So stem cells come from living organisms, so I think you're getting to the heart of the question. A stem cell would have to come from a living organism, so it would come from the fetus while this fetus is
still alive.
What, the umbilical cord?
So, the umbilical cord,
I
that's
mean,
right.
They used to throw them away, you know? I mean, it's still good.
So there is a scientific, and there's an ethical question that follows the scientific question. The scientific part of it is that once you're born, that umbilical cord does no good to anyone. Scientists look at that and say, that is, what a tremendous resource you have here with all the cells that are found there. So we have to be asking ourselves simply various questions that accompany stem cell research in terms of right or wrong. The church has tended to defend the human person and human life. The question comes in, we live in a diverse world where yes, some people see that as a human being, others see it as potentially a human being, and there's a big difference there. If that potential human being is not viable in the same way, then perhaps it doesn't have the same rights as others. Some would argue. We live in a large world with a number of diverse opinions. Perhaps that's a great segue for us into the conversation on abortion, whether or not we want to take that next. But eventually when we get to the topic of abortion, there are many of the same questions that are raised.